Alright, so in this video we are going to be drafting a 1-2-3 block. It's a pretty standard machinist block for setting up parts in mills, sometimes lathes if you're brave. It's a pretty basic part to draft, although it does have a lot of holes. Fortunately, there are functions in Fusion that will allow us to draft this quickly and easily, actually. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to, of course, start with a sketch. Select our plane. So I've selected the XY plane, and I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle. Click on origin, drag out. It is a 1-2-3 block, which obviously makes dimensioning really easy. Let's see. I don't need to select multiple lines. Select one line, 2 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches, and we are going to automatically start putting our holes into our block before we do our first draft of it, or our first extrude of it. So this side is going to have various through holes on it, so I'm going to start by putting down our first through hole. So these through holes are going to be a diameter of, let me look at my physical blueprint I have in front of me real quick. Let's see. C, which is 1/2 inch. So I'm going to select 1/2 inch, or select dimension in 0.5 for a 1/2 inch. And it is going to be located a 1/2 inch in and a 1/2 inch over. Now there are actually 6 of these holes arranged in a 2 rows, well, 3 rows, 2 columns. I think that's how it is. I don't know. I'm not an Excel person. So we need 6 of these holes in the block on this face. So I could manually go back to my circle in the upper left corner and select 3 more circles and then locate them each time. But that is going to be quite tedious. So I'm going to select rectangular pattern. And then it's going to ask me to select what. And so I want this hole. So I want 3 circles this way. And I want 2 circles this way. So in this box right here, I'm going to put 2. And that is going to give me my dimension of 2. They are going to be spaced 1 inch apart. So I've already got -1 because that's where our first line is going to be. And then for spacing this direction, they are going to be spaced at intervals of 1 inch apart as well, which means I need to bring this to 2 inches. So this is going to give me all 6 holes I need to drill in this block from this side without having to sit there and manually write out each hole. So that right here has created my 6-hole pattern. So I need to do 2 more holes at a dimension, let's see, D, which is 375. So I need a hole here and a hole here. So I have manually drawn these holes in. Now, these holes, I could do another rectangular pattern where I just put a 3/8 hole, dimension it over, and then draft it over. Now I know this hole is going to be exactly in line between these holes, so the easiest way to do this is actually going to be using a construction line. So what I'm going to do is go in and select line, and then here in my sketch palette box, I am going to select construction. So this construction line is going to allow me to select this point, and it has drawn a dashed line. This is not a sketch line for an edge, but a sketch line for construction. And so now what I can do is select in my constraints a midpoint constraint. And then when I select my line and the center of this circle, it is going to affix the center of that circle to the midpoint of that line, which is going to be exactly the distance between these 2 points here. So I was able to locate this hole right here exactly where I wanted with using constraints only and not having to use constraints in a line and not having to use any dimensioning lines. I usually find this better to use constraints over dimensioning because then it allows me to edit the sketch later easier. If I need to change something, since it is all based off of ratios, if I change the numbers that I have here, it will change the location of this circle automatically, which I find to be much better, especially in prototyping work where things are going to be changing a lot as new prototypes are brought out. So what I need to do now is figure out what the diameter of this hole is. So I'm going to go up to sketch dimension. Let's see, on my physical print it says it is 3/8. So dimension 0.375. So now I have my dimensioned hole that is located where I need it to be. Again, I like to use constraints as much as possible, so I'm going to use my equals constraint and make these 2 holes equal. Now I'm going to use another line, a construction line, to link these 2 holes together. And then I'm going to use a horizontal vertical to bring this horizontal with the other hole. So I've got these 2 holes are equal, and now they are in the same horizontal axes. And now I just need to figure out the dimension between the 2, which is 1 inch. So I can now just dimension the distance between these 2 holes, and I have my other hole dimensioned with only 1 additional dimensioning line. Now I could have, of course, drawn another dimension line from this point to this point, and then put or this point to this point, and put a center point dimension, and avoided this altogether, which is another option. Like machining itself, there is no one way that's going to get you your part. There's multiple different ways you can do to get your finished product. So again, I can do that. Now I've avoided writing that 1 inch out altogether and just use sketch dimensioning lines to get where I need to be. From here, I'm going to extrude my block, so I can hit Finish Sketch, go to Extrude. I could have just hit E for the hotkey. So I'm going to select this plane because that's what I want to extrude. I'm going to extrude to a distance of 1 inch because it is a 1, 2, 3 block. And now I have the top face of my block almost finished. Now anybody who's dealt with 1, 2, 3 blocks knows there's a lot more holes in here, but the rest of these holes are not through holes like what I've just drafted in this. They are actually going to be threaded holes. So for those threaded holes, what I am going to do is actually now draft my through holes onto this face. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I don't want to actually extrude these holes I'm about to draft, because I want to thread them. So what I'm going to do is select where I want all of these holes to be. And then join them with lines, construction lines. I can now start dimensioning from, this circle to the next. 0.5. From this circle to this circle. 0.5 to establish the location of my first circle. And then from there, I can establish or use constraints to establish this and this on the midpoint, as well as this and this on a midpoint. Five. All right, and also dimension these holes. Let's see, 0.125 is fine, and now I'm going to do equals. All right, so this is still blue, which means this one isn't fully defined. And to figure out where it can move, I can just wiggle it around and it shows me. And so what I'm going to do is for the last one, I'm going to do an equals constraint and make this line and this line equal. And it's going to establish that right in the center. So with all of that, I have now my, what's that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes laid out that I need for my threaded holes, which are going to be 1/4 inch 20 UNC. And so now I'm going to finish sketch and use my hole function up here in the upper left. So hole is going to allow me to select points. And so I'm just going to select the center point of each hole. Even though I established these as 1/8 circles, it doesn't really matter. All I really wanted is that center point. So I've got my 7 selected. Now for my bolt size, well, for depth, I'm going to go to, let's see, 1.25, which is going to be through, which is what I want all the way through. And in my size, I am going to select 1/4 inch, 1/4 20 UNC, and the print calls for 2B right-hand threads. And so this is going to establish those 7 holes as threaded holes all the way through. So I can hit OK. And so now I have established threaded holes. Again, as I've shown in my other videos, the next thing I'm going to do is select this down here in my workflow in the lower left. And then I'm going to rename that to 1/4-20 tap hole. That way, I know that I am going to be tapping these 1/4 20. And if I use the inspection tool in the top middle up here and inspect that hole, it is going to give me a dimension of 0.202 inches, which is going to be my tap drill size for the 1/4 20 hole. So that is why I'm going to use the hole function over just a straight extrusion. So I have the cosmetics, so I know that that is where I'm going to be establishing a threaded hole, and then I can check in my workflow to see exactly what size that is. It again helps eliminate confusion, and that's the whole point of the reason we're drafting parts, is to help eliminate confusion when explaining these things to other people. Alright, so now if you ever use 1, 2, 3 blocks, you know that all sides have holes through them, so we're not done yet. We're going to establish another sketch on this end now. So once we're here, we're going to put 2 1/2 inch holes, 1, 2. We're going to go 0.5 And then I'm going to use the equals constraint to make those equal. Sometimes it's hard to see those holes, and I can't figure out how to make them darker sometimes, or those lines. I'm going to use again, use a line and use a construction line. As I hover over this edge, it's going to show a triangle appear. That means a midpoint triangle is there. And so I'm going to select midpoint, midpoint to establish that line. And then I'm going to use a coincident and say that the center of this circle is coincident with that line, and the center of this circle is coincident with that line. Now I just need to use my sketch dimension tool to establish the distance between these holes. So that there is going to give me my 2 1/2-inch extruded cut holes. But I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to add another circle right here, and I'm going to keep it as a construction line, because this is actually going to be the point where I do my next tapped hole all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to this sketch. And so as far as sketch dimensioning, it doesn't really matter what this dimension is, because really it's just the point as a placeholder. So I'm going to hit finish sketch. First thing I'm going to do is extrude. Now I'm going to select those two, and then I'm just going to drag all the way through. And it automatically selected operation as a cut. That's what I want. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I have my 1/2-inch holes extruded through my 1, 2, 3 block. I am, of course, missing that threaded hole. It's not there anymore. But the sketch has disappeared because I used it. So what I'm going to do is come back to the upper left in my drop downs here, drop this down, and show sketch. I'm going to hit the eyeball to show the sketch again. There's my point back. Now I'm going to use the hole function, select that point, and then I am going to again use a 1/4 inch, 1/4 20 2B right hand thread. It automatically loads in the last thing I used in this print, which was the 1/4 inch 20, so that's good. All I need to do is select the depth, and that hole is going to be all the way through, so I'm just going to click and drag. And OK. There is my threaded hole all the way through. And now the last one I need to do is on this side right here. So I'm done with this sketch. It doesn't need to be revealed anymore, so I'm going to click that to hide that sketch. Create sketch, select this face, and now I'm going to draft one circle here. I am going to dimension it 0.5. I already know the location of it. It's going to be 0.5 over, 0.5 down. Now for the other side, I manually drew out 2 circles and labeled them, because it was quicker to do it that way rather than using a rectangular pattern. But sometimes you just got to decide what's going to be quicker. Is it quicker to manually do it? Is it quicker to physically, or is it quicker to manually input the dimensions for each hole, or is it quicker to do a rectangular pattern? For this, I'm going to go ahead and use the pattern function. So bring it to 2. That's going to be my 3. All right, so those are 2 inches overall, which means I'm going to have 1 inch between each block. Okay, so that's going to be my 3 holes on this side, and now I have my threaded holes, which I'm going to add in manually right here. 0.25. Actually, I've been going 1/8. I'll keep doing 1/8. Equals. Those are equal to each other, and now what I need to do is create a line in the upper left, construction line, and I'm going to link these two. The distance between them is going to be 1 inch. And then I'm going to use a midpoint function in my constraints to make this midpoint on that circle, and then I'm going to use the horizontal vertical to put them in line. And so just like that, I have everything lined up as it needs to be. So I can now finish sketch, hit E for the hotkey to extrude, select the 3 through holes, and extrude those, drag those to make the cut through, hit OK. Again, my print disappeared, or my sketch disappeared, so I'm going to reveal that again with just clicking the I in the drop down on sketch 4, hole function in the upper left, select those 2 points, drag all the way through, check it, it is 1/4 inch 20 still, 2B, okay, and I can hide that sketch now. And just like that, I have drafted a 1, 2, 3 block. So this is an excellent project for learning how to, well, set up drills and taps if you're learning how to machine, but it is also an excellent source on how to learn the sketch function for patterning. And hopefully that was helpful. It was a relatively shorter video than the rest, but hopefully you learned something, and good luck, have fun.